Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and I have a good one for you. Now, I'm going to mix this one with a little bit of politics and economics. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because you have a number of people out there who do not know anything about the markets. So I'm going to title this video A Mix of Politics and Economics. A mix of politics and economics. Because it's just what it is. It is a mix of politics and economics. They're going hand in hand. And it's basically dealing with tariffs. Now, you have a number of people out there who don't know anything about politics, but they think they do. And a number of them don't even have a fight in the stock market. Too many people are looking at the stock market as a benchmark for the market. Now, let me tell you this about a tariff. You know, Joe Biden had tariffs. Donald Trump used tariffs the first time as well. Ronald Reagan used tariffs. You see, people in America are relatively stupid. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to keep pounding it in a number of these Americans' heads because we have too many stupid people out here making decisions. I mean, I see stupid people on the road driving. I see stupid people that I work with. And you got stupid people who are politicians. You have stupid people in the media. When you give stupid people the microphone, they know how to fuck a bunch of shit up because that's what they're doing. They're emotional, they're gullible, they do not understand any type of critical thinking, particularly when it comes to the market. Now, economics. Now, you have macroeconomics and microeconomics. I'm just going to blend it all together. It's all the principles of economics. And economics, really, yes, it features money and unemployment, different types of systems. But the two things that you should worry about when it comes to economics, that's supply and demand. Let me give you an example. When you have a good, let's say a yacht. Now, why do yachts cost so much? Well, you have to pay a lot of people to create the yacht, the designer. You're going to have to create the people who are actually putting it together. If there are computer systems on that yacht, you're going to have to pay somebody as well to test the systems. If you're in a marina, you park your boat there, the yacht, you're going to have to pay somebody as well. You see, the more people who are involved in creating yacht, the price is going to go up. Why? Because the people who are doing the work, they're incurring costs as well. And who does costs get passed down to? Costs get passed down to the consumer. See, the problem with Americans are, I don't want to use the word plantation, but I'm going to say this. Most Americans are employees. They can work for a company and they can be managers, but most Americans don't own anything. In fact, most Americans, when they do an income tax, certainly some of them get tax refunds. Some of them have to pay taxes. Now, the reason why most Americans are employees is because everybody can't be a business owner. A number of individuals don't know anything about business or the economy. Now, when we talk about a tariff, all a tariff is, it's the government imposing a tax on a company that wants to export their goods to America. Now, you have dummies out there, particularly on CNN, and listen, I'm not being sexist, but some of you women are about dumbest individuals when you try to talk about economics. Many of you just go home and buy yourself a Birkin bag. Stay off the big boy show because you all don't know anything about economics. The bottom line with you all is you think because you have an opinion, you have power. You don't have any power. In fact, most of the employees, and they're indoctrinated by the Democratic Party, because the Democrats, they want slaves. This is why they talk so highly about unions. They don't want managers. They don't want ownership. They want dependent people. So when I talk about the tariffs, you have individuals saying that, well, the tariffs increase the cost of goods. Well, let me give you some real truth here. If there were no tariffs and I have a business here in America, a manufacturing business, you're still going to have the same Americans tell me that my prices are too high. Why? Because I'm still going to mark up my prices. The cost is still going to be passed to the consumers. See, most Americans are consumers. Most Americans are employees. And here's how you can tell they're employees. Again, when we get to the tax years, what form do most employees fill out? Or most people? They fill out a 1040. Now, if you have some extra goodies, you'll fill out a 1048. And if you go to the extreme and you have a business on the side, which will give you some benefit, it'll give you a higher refund if you calculate everything right. And I'm talking about you go to work for somebody and you have a side business and you can utilize the standard deductions from your side business to get a bigger refund check. And what do you do with the money? Well, you don't spend it, you invest it into your business because you don't want to show a loss every year. But the bottom line when it comes to Americans, a lot of the shit China sends over here is garbage. Now you have platforms like Temu. You ever heard of Temu? Temu? Well, what Temu does, they do their own packaging. I know we've gotten some goods from Temu. That's why they don't charge for shipping. They do their own. Well, see, when it comes to the tariffs, even if the tariff is 10%, well, when you get the goods over here, the business owner, they're still going to incur some costs. Now, what costs are they going to incur? Okay, if it's coming by boat, if it's coming by truck, because most likely, if it's coming from China, it's coming by boat. So that's a transportation cost you're going to have to pay. You're also going to have to pay costs for fuel. You're also going to have to pay storage costs, because the goods are going to be stored in some type of containers. Heck, you might even have to pay the crane operator. You're going to have to pay the crane operator to actually lift the container of goods off of the ship, and then the goods are distributed by truck to its destination. That destination could be a grocery store, it could be a Walmart, it could be an Amazon. So you are incurring cost. Now, on top of that cost, there are taxes. If it's coming from a foreign source, you may have to pay for customs, because customs has got to check everything out, make sure that it's legitimate. Then you're going to have to pay state, federal, local taxes. And what a business is going to do? They're going to put all of the costs onto the consumer. That's what makes the prices high. Now, without the tariffs, if something is too high and you are a consumer, what are you going to do? Common sense is, if I can't get it here at Walmart for a price that I can afford, I'm going to go somewhere else. Well, that's the same way you look at tariffs. If the tariff, particularly if China, is charging the United States high tariffs when we ship our goods to their country, what can we do? We can look at other countries. This is how competition works. But see, a lot of Americans don't know that, because they're used to going in, collecting a paycheck, don't give a damn about anybody but themselves. They don't know anything. Even the ones who go to college, they're all indoctrinated. They're all in a little box. They don't think. So they're all emotional. So what it is they listen to what CNN tells them. The CNN tells them a bunch of lies, or MSNBC tells them a bunch of lies, because they don't like this president. Now, there are not too many presidents who have actually tried to make changes. Now, a couple of them, you had Theodore Roosevelt, you had Franklin Delano Roosevelt. After the Depression, what did he do? Well, during his time, this is when all the Social Security and the safety benefits came to light, that the government should actually take care of its citizens. Back when Teddy Roosevelt was in power, an income tax was imposed. The income tax was used to pay for the war, but the income tax stayed. And what Americans don't understand is this: change is painful. Too many of us are living above our means. We think we can step in a lane that we can't afford. This is why a number of us are broke. Many of us are going out here. We want to try to profile. I'll give you an example. A number of us can't afford a BMW, but you got people who want a BMW, so it makes them look like they have some type of power, some type of status. Meanwhile, they can't put food on the table. See, the bottom line is Americans are poor when it comes to managing money. They don't know about money. And when they look at this president, a lot of things happened during the Biden administration. Biden was just giving money away to Ukraine like it's water. Then you bring this administration in, they're trying to find out where some of the money is going. And they're upset because the money that was going to places like USAID for programs that aren't even relevant to the United States, like transgender studies over there in Middle Eastern countries. First of all, in the Middle East, they don't even believe in that crap. That's American. That's westernized bullshit. But the education system stinks here. Too many Americans, they don't think critically. They lost common sense just for feelings. And when you hear lies every day on TV, pounded into your head, well, because most Americans are still on the plantation, still in a box. And that's Americans on the left and the right. They can't escape that box because their mind won't let them escape that box. And when you live above your means, you're always going to be broke. Now, you have some people, particularly on Kendra G's show, they always tell you that they're entrepreneurs. Well, what do they really own? And some of them don't even know what an entrepreneur is. They just like the sound of the word because it makes them sound sophisticated. It's like the word narcissism. Hey, people don't even know what narcissists are. They're just regurgitating what they heard somebody else say. So when it comes to the economy, I know I was downtown Indianapolis and I saw a guy with a sign up. The tariffs are Trump's tariffs. Well, this was a dumb man who didn't even know anything about the economy. Because most of us, we don't invest in any stock market. And since when did people start caring about the stock market? See, the bottom line, people only care about what they can afford. So the best way to really track your money is you got to look at what you're purchasing. And see, when you're purchasing a bunch of bullshit out here, China's going to import a bunch of bullshit. A lot of things that Americans purchase, they don't need. They're basically tangible items that serve no purpose. What do you need with 47 marinas? What do you need with 100 pairs of shoes? What do you need with a bunch of clothes that when they go out of style, they're going to sit in your closet? This is what women do. You got people up here who are panicking. Now you have Trump saying that you got to pay guaranteed student loans back. Well, you should. And a number of these sisters are really going crazy about that. Why? Because they thought they were so smart. They were going to college. Most of them, when they go to college, they're not getting real degrees. They're staying in school so they can get that financial aid check. Because basically what they do with the financial aid check, they'll pay a portion of their tuition and they'll keep the money for themselves. And they don't know that that financial aid, unless it's a Pell Grant, if you're getting a subsidized and an unsubsidized loan, you got to pay it back. And many of them, what they'll do, they'll constantly stay in school. They'll take courses, meaningless courses. And a number of the sisters are getting a degree so they don't have to listen to a black man. That's why they're getting a degree. It's true. They think, well, because I have a degree, I can go get a job and I can be strong and independent, and you're broke. And they're listening to people like Kendra G out here who think she's the prize. Well, now that the hammer is going to fall, you take some of the resources away from these women, you're going to see how homeless they're going to be, because a number of women do not know how to spend money. And then you got a number of men out here simping. And in the black community, it's even worse. Think you got hoods now? You take away some of the resources from the hoods, you're going to have a lot of blighted communities because people are going to die out because they can't afford it. And what you got to do when it comes to money, you got to stay in your lane. Not everybody can afford a Lexus. Not everybody can afford a BMW. And if you're out to impress somebody to make you look good, you look stupid. It's just like I did a video a long time ago about job titles. Many people love to talk about, particularly some of these women out here. They love to talk about their accomplishments. The accomplishments ain't shit. I mean, you got less than I got. I mean, these days, when it comes to college, college is a hell of a lot easier now than it used to be. Hell, you don't have to write a paper these days. You can use AI to do it for you. You go in the Grok. If you go in a Liner, if you go in a Copilot, hell, AI will even write an email for you. AI will even write code for you. That's how easy shit is today. It's got a lot of Americans. They listen to the media and they panic. Now, I'm hoping the Americans, if we were in some water, I'm hoping those that panic drown. Why? Because that's less population we got to deal with. We have to get rid of the stupid people. We can't give them a mic. They have to die off or something. Because these are the ones out front making no sense, doing no studies. And even if they read something, everything's based on opinion. Sure, when you are making changes, things take time. I know we had issues with the eggs, issues with food. Well, it also depends on where you live and who your government is. See, remember, we have local, we have state, and we have federal government. So you might not see the cost of goods and services coming down in places like California and New York. Why? Because it's ran by socialists and communist Democrats. They want high taxes. And see what Trump is trying to do. Now, is he moving too fast in some things? Yes, certainly. But he's trying to stay ahead of the Democrats because they want to shoot everything down he does. And what the Democrats are trying to do is they're trying to get elected. They care more about getting elected. I mean, you just had Quasi and Fume and a couple of Democrats. They just rescinded themselves from being part of the impeachment party. Why? Because midterms are coming up. I already know the Democrats are not going to take the Senate. And they had the Senate and the House when Trump was president the first time, impeached him twice. Now you're going to have that woman up there in New York. She talk about how strong she is. Well, it's about time that she goes to Rikers Island. It's about time that some of these Democrats and some of these lazy Republicans, they got to feel pain too. They're not feeling pain. Change is pain. And see, we had to go through 60 years of liberalism being thrown down our throat. And now, like the late, great Sam Cooke said, change is coming. Things are cycling back around. You know, we have a number of feminists out there, and the feminists are hypocritical themselves. So they really don't want equality. They want selective equality and supremacy and special treatment. Well, you live here in America, you don't get special treatment. Some of you women want to be like a man. Well, now you're going to see how a man really is. Many of you men out here weak too. I mean, you out here sounding like women, crying on television, I call it the DA system, the Dumb Americans Syndrome. A number of people here need to be put in mental institutions, rather. Now, I don't proclaim to be any genius. I just use common sense. And I know when it comes to my money, try to budget it as best I can. Now, one thing about Americans, many of them can't cook. So they'd rather go out and spend a hell of a lot of money on fast food rather than cook food. Well, if I spend $100 and I can cook food, which is going to take a little bit of work, and you spend $100 eating out, well, you know what? I can stretch my $100 for a while. But when you go out and you spend $100 on some fast food, you got to eat that up, because there's a certain time that you can keep fast food around. But many people don't look at the big picture. They think small. And when you're in a box, you just don't think. And I'm gonna change the title of this video. I'm gonna say this: Americans are in the box when it comes to the political and economic systems here. Americans live in a box when it comes to politics and economics. They do. That's what I'm gonna. It just came to me. Americans live in a box when it comes to politics and economics, and it's very important that you understand that. And let me tell you this: you don't need to go to college to figure this shit out. You need to look at what's around you. Many people don't look at what's around them because they watch TV too much. That's what it is. They don't study. You can study and read. So you got to read the right sources. And you have a number of people here on YouTube to look, particularly in the Black sector, who think they know, but they don't know. They walk around in delusion. See, here in America, you got it now to where I'm just going to say where the downtrodden think that they can afford, or they're the same as the establishment or the elitists. No, they're not. The downtrodden is more dependent on the government. But see, the downtrodden, what they're going to do, they're going to take their money and try to buy something that they can't afford. Meanwhile, they don't think about the future. And many people, they're looking at the stock market when it comes to the economy. Since when did Wall Street rule the economy? Wall Street doesn't rule the economy. What rules the economy is, are businesses making profits or are they taking losses? Are you making money? Now, rich is a subjective term because you can make $200,000 and have plenty of money left over. I don't like to use the word rich. I like to be comfortable. But when it comes to Americans, many of them are phony. You know, many of them are living a dream. But at the same time, they're being schemed. They're being schemed by themselves. And see, the reason for the panic that's occurring right now, the panic is really based off of ignorance. See, a person with common sense understands supply and demand. Going back to the situation with the yacht. Well, the reason why yachts aren't at a high demand right now, because yachts are only marketed to a certain market. And that market is way out of my league. Everybody's not going to be able to afford a yacht. And I don't want everybody, I work hard to get where I am. I don't want somebody driving the same car I'm driving when they're down at the bottom, but they think they're even with me. So when it comes to a regular car, I'm not really impressed by a BMW or a Hellcat or a Tesla. Car's a bad investment. You only need a car to get you from point A to point B. So you have a number of individuals buying houses that they can't afford. And you get these individuals saying, well, I bought a house. Well, guess what? Till you pay that house off, the bank owns the house. You miss a few payments, that house will foreclose. Yes, you might get a little more equity if you fix the house up. You might get some extras if you have a business, certainly. But see, when you have a house and you can't fix anything, if it breaks down, then you have to call a contractor, and they're going to charge you an arm and a leg. So that's money that you're losing. And I just believe some of these individuals who have houses should be in apartments. It's best for them. Because they don't even keep houses clean anyway. In fact, if you got all this space in that house, the reason why your heating bill and your air conditioning bill are so high because there's a heat loss assessment that you have to look at. What people don't know is the more windows you have in your house, the more in the wintertime, the more heat goes out, the more air goes out. It's called heat loss and gain. Because in that space, you need windows in case you have to get out for a fire. And then when it comes to rooms, okay, you got partitions, which are your inner walls. They might trap a little bit of the air, a little bit of the heat. It's not going to get it all. So, when it comes to politics, Americans are definitely stupid. And see, the problem is you got too many people watching The View. And see, those knuckleheads make a lot of money. But guess what? They're employees. But see, if Joy Behar, Sonny Houston, Anna Navarro, Whoopi Goldberg got fired, they got enough to live on for the rest of their lives, even if they spend a lot of money. So your average Joe and your average Jane doesn't have that. So when you are not in the higher tax bracket, you need to be better with your money. Not saying people in a higher tax bracket don't need to be better, but see, you have more of an opportunity when you're in a higher tax bracket with your money because you can utilize tax shelters. See, this is when you hear the Democrats saying, well, the rich make all the money. Well, they don't understand. In their party, they have a lot of rich. And if you don't believe me, when Kamala Harris was running, look how many celebrities were at the Democratic National Convention. Look how many celebrities were paid to draw an audience for Kamala Harris. And she was out there with her word salad, preaching nothing. She wasn't going to do anything except have everything be the same old, same old. Now, first of all, I said this a while back. You want to get so many illegals out here, cut the funding off. And some states are going to feel that, like Maine. Trump put out that he didn't want men and women's sports for the feminists, nowhere to be found. So that governor, and she's going to hurt her political career, she defied the president. Remember, federal law trumps state law. So instead of arguing, cut the funding off. So when you really cut the funding off, particularly in these democratic cities, let them feel a little heat. Because what's coming next? Higher taxes on their residents. Is that going to be good enough to get some of the Democrats elected? Let me tell you, look at Chicago. No matter how shitty Chicago is, black people, they're going to put in somebody black in there. And it's going to be fucked up like it always is. Same with Baltimore, Philadelphia. You know, all these democratic cities. Don't mean to curse, but I have to bring it out street style because some of you just don't understand anything because you keep listening to the media, and the media is full of lies. And all these liberal politicians, black and white, they're going on the liberal media. And for you all who are liberals out there, I'm just going to say this. If you're having a hard time adapting to the competition of this country and you don't like this country, leave. Go enjoy Sweden or Germany. Go to Canada. They have a socialist system. You want socialized health care? No, we don't need it here. I like having a competition here. I like being able to have choices. This is what America is about. Now, America's had its problems. Don't get me wrong, but other countries have had their problems. And when you lose America, a lot of these other countries aren't going to survive because America has the biggest economy. And what we need to do now, are manufacturing jobs coming back overnight? No, they're not going to come back overnight. We already know they're not going to come back overnight. However, when it comes to understanding how any economy works, you need to compare. I mean, I've done videos on socialism, communism, Marxism, capitalism, federalism, you name it. But when it comes to economics, you don't need to go to college. You need to understand supply and demand. When you have something that's overly supplied, you got a high supply of something, well, the demand might not be as high, so you can sell the goods for a lower price. Now, when you don't have enough supply and the demand is high, then some people are going to be left out because they're not going to be afforded. That's the same way with the yacht. There's not a demand for a lot of yachts. So they don't produce enough yachts that everybody can afford. No. It goes to a certain clientele. It's what people don't understand. So when you're talking about tariffs, money coming in from other countries, well, you can take the tariffs away. Businesses are still going to jack up their prices. All costs get passed down to consumers. I'll give an example. It's funny, how many people complain about the cost to get your car fixed. Well, unless you can install your own parts, certainly if you could do that, you can save parts and labor. But generally, most people cannot fix their own car. So what happens is that you go to somewhere like Firestone or Amco or Jiffy Lube or Midas or Discover Tire, you find out that your bill is high. Well, what are you paying for? You're paying for parts and labor. And on top of that, parts and labor, there are going to be taxes involved. There's going to be a disposal fee. So when you get the bill back, you have to understand what's taking place. Most of us don't understand what's taking place. Too many Americans are reactive. They're not proactive. They're having all these phony protests out, and they don't even know what they're protesting about. Because, you have a left in this country. They still want everything to be like it was when Joe Biden and going backwards to the 1960s. The Democrats, particularly on the far left, they really want a poor country. They want a third world country. This is why they want illegals to come in. And see, I hear a number of Democrats saying, well, there's nobody out there to pick cotton. There's nobody out there to grow your vegetables. Well, hell, when you live in the cities, no, there's nobody to do that because most of you go to the grocery store and you got machines to pick your cotton. And see, if I'm farming, I'm selling cotton and I sell it to a local store, I got costs too. Why? Because I got to pay for that machine that's picking the cotton. Then I got to pay to ship it. There's a cost to be the boss. This is what people don't understand. And see, when you are in a box and you're a consumerist, you don't know these things. A lot of Americans don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So they listen to the media, who's basically a propagandist lying machine anyway. Instead of listening to people like me who actually are out here in these streets. I see what's going on. I work downtown Indianapolis, and a number of the city employees who go in and out of all these shops, they're women. They're running a Whole Foods market right down on Market Street. They're running down to Monument Circle. They're running everywhere to buy some bullshit, but I bet you a number of them can't pay their bills, and they're buying cigarettes. Unnecessary stuff. Because you got a number of individuals, when it comes to lunch, they don't even make their lunch anymore. It saves you a lot of money. So things are going to be high. When Biden was in office, we had a 9% inflation rate. Yeah, he got it down to 5, cut it in half, but it wasn't 1.2% like Trump had it when he was in office. So it was still, when Biden was in office, 5 times higher than what Trump had. But the media isn't telling you this. Why? Because the media, what they're doing is they want the people who voted for Trump to basically have a resent for voting for Trump. And the media wants people on their side, particularly for the midterms. They want Hakeem Jeffries to be the House Speaker. So basically, the Democrats aren't even trying to work and make any changes because they want the power. And one thing about the Democrats, they're predictable. We already know what they want. They want a country that's dependent on government. They want high taxes. They want a welfare state. They do. You can hear them preach, and a lot of these politicians, they do nothing but talk. I'm talking about on the left and the right. This is why they've been in office for a long time. In fact, they're the ones who are making a lot of money. They're the ones who are doing a lot of the insider trading as well. So if you believe that Wall Street is the barometer when it comes to the economy, you're wrong. Because like I said, most Americans don't even invest in the stock market. In fact, many of them, they don't really have a lot in the 401k, particularly today, because most people, unless they roll their money over, which they don't, they actually make a certain amount of money for a company. Company might put in some money, and that's it. And many of them, yes, if you invest in a market, one must understand it's very, very volatile. Stocks go up and stocks go down. It's that simple. But many Americans don't invest in the stock market. They go get a check and go home. That's what they do. And for the most part, many of them going out there again, like I said, so they can have something to talk about. Oh, what kind of ring did you get? Oh, I got a 5 carat ring. Oh, I got a Maserati. They're just going and buy unnecessary stuff so they can have something to talk about. They think they're on top of the world. Meanwhile, they can't pay for it. And a number of individuals, you think they're buying new cars out here? They're faking the funk out here. They're leasing cars. That's what they're doing. They don't own anything. See, this is what happens when you live in a box. A number of the Democrats, they don't want people to own anything. No. Because if you own something and you manage it correctly, then you got a little bit of power. Then you got some advantage. And see, with the tax laws are set up for people with money. If you don't have a lot of money, they're not for you. Now, of course, you have some individuals out there who are living off the fat of the land. They're having a bunch of kids, and the government is going to reward them. Well, you cut some of that shit out too. You cut back on that fat. You cut out giving illegals all this money that they didn't work for. You cut out the free healthcare. There's a lot of things that you can do. This is why we want criminals out. And when we bring in illegals, we want individuals that can contribute, who have some education. We don't want to bring in the downtrodden. And I'm not saying everybody that is Hispanic is downtrodden, but a number of them that come in here, let's just be honest, they are downtrodden because they want to get away from those government, which is understandable. Well, see, the Democrats got it wrong last time because they thought, well, some of these Hispanics that came in, particularly the men, were going to vote Democrat. Hispanics are a little different than black people. Let me tell you, because some of the Hispanics, I mean, I ride down a lot of streets here in Indianapolis, and there are a lot of Hispanic owned businesses. When it comes to black people, many of us will never own a business. Many of us are going to be 9-to-5ers. Now, you have some that are going to work for themselves. They'll be self-employed. In other words, they're not going to have an employee ID number. They're going to have their social security number. They're not forming LLCs. You got some of them, like I said, with Kendra G out here. They think they're entrepreneurs. They're not. Many of them probably don't even keep track of their money. They got a Cash App business, and what are they doing with the money? Going out buying stupid stuff with it. Because they think that's a business. It's not a business. The business, you have people keeping track of your money. Now, you have some people here on YouTube. Are they using it as a business? Certainly. But even that can get very volatile. Why? Because you have so many people here on YouTube, and everybody is not going to make money on YouTube, whether you're successful or not. It all comes down to the algorithm. But for the most part, you get individuals in this country, and when you hear them talk, they're like children. Arrested development. They're delusional. And they're not real thinkers. They're predictable. That's why I call them stupid Americans. Now, some people might object to that, but when the obvious is sitting out there with common sense, you need to look at the big picture. And the big picture is this. This administration, after 100 days, sure. Have mistakes been made? Absolutely. They got time to correct it. And there was this poll. It was an ABC poll, and I knew it was biased. About 2,000 people. And many of them said the economy is bad. Well, the economy is bad because a number of them, they spent so much of their money on frivolous stuff, they're broke. That's what it is. Are the tariffs helping? Many people don't even know what a tariff is. They don't even know how a tariff works. See, that's another thing. When you're a smart person out here, when you understand what's going on, you got to let the dummies die. You can't preach to these dummies. Once a dummy, always a dummy, unless they get out of their own box. So because you have a number of people who don't even know what a tariff is, I don't even see why even talking about it. On CNN, they don't know what a tariff is. You get people like Kevin O'Leary and Scott Jennings that are trying to explain it to them, and you got a whole panel full of women who don't know a damn thing. They went and got an academic degree, and they think that is God right there. And they probably owe a hell of a lot of student loans. And just because a professor tells you something, is the professor actually working in economics? Economics, like I said, is based on supply and demand. That's what it is. If we have an overabundance of goods, but the demand is low, you can sell the overabundance of goods at a lower price. Say, I guarantee a lot of people don't even know what a break-even point is. When your supply and demand meet, they intersect. It's zero. You broke even. But when it comes to businesses, whether you have a tariff or not, a number of these American businesses, they're going to jack their prices up anyway. They're going to do it. But I don't see anybody complaining about that. Well, some people might complain about it. So if you add a tariff in it, you got to remember too, when goods are coming from China, China's also got to pay for transportation costs. Yes, they pay very, very cheap labor, and that's why some of the goods here that may look good. See what it is with China? They'll take an American design and steal it, try to reproduce it at a cheaper price, and the quality isn't good. When it's going to cost money to make something at a higher quality. So that means you got to get good resources, you got to get a good design, a good prototype, testing. It takes some research to get a good product out, like the Maytag washers. You don't see goods like the Maytag washers anymore. Why? Because a Maytag washer, the item that would go bad would be the belts. Maytag washers last forever because it's a good product. And when it comes to tariffs, if China's tariffs are too high, go to Mexico, go to Canada. They're north and south of us. This is what markets are about, having choices. Now, you did have some presidents like going back to the Teddy Roosevelt days, right back in the 1900s, where you had the J.P. Morgans. You broke that up. The Rockefellers. That's where the antitrust laws came. Because you cannot have too many companies out here running the market because they're going to set the prices. You look at cell phone carriers. There are three major cell phone carriers. Sprint was dissolved into T-Mobile. So you basically have AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. Now you have other little subsidiaries like Boost Mobile and Mint Mobile. You have Cricket. But the bottom line is you got Americans that don't understand how the real world works. In fact, they live for today. They don't live for the future. This is why they can't save money. And everybody is not on the same level. You can have equal opportunity, but you're never going to get equal outcomes. That is all cap. But you have people thinking that because they got a job, the job that you got is equal to a CEO job. No, it's not. So basically, when you have a number of people who are employees don't understand anything that's going on because they're the ones doing the work. They're not making decisions. Even managers, okay? You have your frontline managers, they're basically employees as well. You can go up in the middle management. Yeah, they're making the little decisions. They're basically trying to use strategies that the executives bring down to them, but they really don't have a lot of power. All the power comes from the top. And when I've done videos, you have all these judges out here. These judges don't know anything about the economy. They don't know anything about what's going on. They want to stop everything that the president is doing. Why? Because they think they have power. These judges are supposed to interpret law. They're not supposed to legislate law. This is why we have legislators, Congress. And we know Congress isn't going to do too much because Congress is trying to lay back and get elected. Meanwhile, policies like Social Security, no tax on Social Security, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Well, this is all in that bill that Trump is trying to pass. And he's trying to pass that bill so his tax cuts can remain permanent. So the next president who comes in office just can't change everything through executive order. And you know, presidents are going to change things. See, when it all comes to Trump, everything is hate Trump. That's what it is. That's the common sense as well. And the Democratic left, they're trying to get people on the right to think like them in that little box to hate Trump. So they set out panic. That's what they're doing. These liberal networks, they're trying to put the American people, which are pretty stupid, in a frenzy. That's exactly what they're doing. And you have some who are falling for it. And these are the individuals I don't want around. You can't talk to them. I mean, I see them on YouTube. There are a number of them on Facebook, TikTok. They don't know anything. And they sound intelligent because all they're doing is regurgitating material that they got from CNN or ABC. And that ABC poll, 2,043 adults, Now, that adult, when they said adults, they didn't say likely voters, they said adults. Well, you have to understand who was in that poll. Nobody's asking who was in that poll. What ages were in that poll? Because you could have some individuals who are part of the Generation Alpha and Gen Z, and because all the generations had a lot of dumb people, all the generations. And then that poll was from a liberal network. So they're voting from the left. So that was not a good poll. This is why you cannot trust polls. And 2,043 adults is not a good representation of 330 million people, because you're going to have some people who believe that the economy is good. 77 million people voted for Donald Trump. So what the Democrats are trying to do is get some of those 77 million people on their side. And if they get them on their side, the Democrats aren't going to do anything. They're going to use political posturing, political theater, because all they want to do is get elected. I don't want people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jasmine Crockett running my country. They don't know what the hell they're doing. And I don't want people like Abby Phillips, who's on CNN. And you got people like Joe Scarborough, who used to be a Republican. He was a congressperson from Florida. Michael Steele. He was Bob Ehrlich's vice president. When I voted for Bob Ehrlich, when Bob Ehrlich was a congressman from Maryland from 2002 to 2006, before it went Democrat and swung back to Martin O'Malley. People don't know that because people don't do their homework. A number of people will allow the media tell them what they need to know. That's what the media is doing. I mean, Fox, you might have some people, but I don't really trust Fox like I used to either. I mean, although I believe Jesse Waters is okay. He's okay. Hey, I believe Jesse Waters is better than Tucker Carlson. Laura Ingraham, she's okay. But you can't even trust people like Karl Rove. He's on the right. He's an anti-Trumper. John Bolton. See, these are all establishment guys. They were in there while they were getting that gravy. And what has happened, that gravy ran out. And when that gravy ran out, people panicked. And all the Democrats and the media, what they're doing, they're just fear mongering. That's the word. They're bloviating. They're fear mongering because they know there are weak people out there, people who can't take the change. And when you're going through some change, it's like a cold. Okay. Has anybody ever been sick? Well, when you've been sick, your body's going to go through different situations. You might get diarrhea. You might have a headache. It's going through different changes to try to get well again. But when you're going through those changes, you're sick, it's uncomfortable. And that's what's going on with this country. You have some of the Democrats, oh, we're in a recession. We're not in a recession. The stock market is going up and down, and they're negotiating on the tariffs. I mean, China, they still want to impose well over 100% tariff. So if they want to do that, why buy from them? Because China is going to hurt themselves. So if I know that they're going to impose that high a tariff, I'm going somewhere else. This is the common sense. If you see that the prices are much higher than what you can afford, it's time for you to make that move and go somewhere else. You are the driver of your money. And if you don't know how your money works, if you don't know how the economy works, there's something wrong with you. And this is what people don't understand. Everybody does not make the same money, and we're all not going to be able to afford the same items. You got some people who can afford a $14 million house. You got some who can afford a $100,000 house. You have to live within your means, no matter who's president. We did when Joe Biden was in office. And let me tell you, things were high when Joe Biden was in office. It seemed to me that nobody on the left, they said anything about it. At least what I get from this administration, nothing is perfect, but at least I'm getting some transparency. I'm actually seeing cabinet meetings on television where I didn't see that from Joe Biden. Kamala Harris, she's just another establishment candidate. And the guy that's going to be the wild card is J.D. Vance, because J.D. Vance knows how to articulate Trump's program, in my opinion, better than Trump does. And J.D. Vance is a hell of a lot more conservative than Trump. Trump was an old Democrat. So what Trump has done, he's taken the old Democratic philosophies and he's brought them to the Republican Party. That's why he's the leader of the party. So the Democrats really have nothing to go on except for fear mongering and identity politics. And in the end, when it comes to politics and the economy, are you living in a real world, or are you susceptible to the lies? See, the people who are living in the real world, they do the real work. The people who are fear mongered, they're easily triggered, and they're gullible, they're the losers. Why? Because they live in the box or the plantation. And when you live in a box or the plantation and you don't have any other thought and you are comfortable, guess what? You're always going to be ruled by the wrong people. Why? Because the wrong people know how stupid you are. And that's why I say you have a number of Americans who are stupid people. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, Thursday to Sunday, check out my smaller channel, the QCIS channel. On that channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, here's where you can find me. 411 Talk Zone radio show. You can find me on YouTube, Rumble, because this video will be posted on Rumble. You can also find me on X, formerly Twitter, and Truth Social. And before I leave, shout out to Machismo TV, Hardcore Tito. Start getting with some of these men's channels because they're going to tell you the real truth of what's going on, particularly from a man's point of view. And all you guys out there, stop simping. Be men. Because in the world of competition, it's always going to be tough. But competition is good. It'll teach you how to bring your A game. On that note, when it comes to the QCIS channel, in the QCIS channel, you can find me on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, and of course, LinkedIn. And in the end, always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Know that the sun always rises in the east, sets in the west. So for you individuals who are offended by this video, and you have some that aren't, but if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, then change it. Once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful, gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.